The mugshots of Victorian child criminals, some as young as 12, offer a haunting glimpse into the harsh realities of 19th century justice. Taken in the 1870s at Oxford Jail, later HMP Oxford, these photographs reveal a time when children faced severe punishments for petty crimes. Despite their youth, many were imprisoned for stealing items of little value, with punishments that now seem shockingly disproportionate. For example, Jim Westbury received 6 months of hard labor and was sent to a reformatory school for 5 years for stealing corn and hay. A 13-year-old girl endured 7 days of hard labor for taking an umbrella, while a 12-year-old girl was jailed for 10 days for false pretenses. A 17-year-old boy was arrested for stealing a handkerchief, and brothers John and Thomas Williams, aged 13 and 14, were sentenced to 6 months in jail for house looting. Juvenile crime was a significant issue in Victorian Britain, and authorities struggled to address it. Theft, particularly pocket-picking, was rampant as items like silk handkerchiefs held high resale value and could be easily sold. Crowded spaces such as fairs, marketplaces, and even public executions provided fertile ground for young thieves. Why did children become criminals? Most crimes committed by children were petty thefts. They stole bread, coal, clothes, candles, food, or items that could be easily resold, such as silk handkerchiefs. These thefts were often acts of desperation. Children might have been the sole providers for their families or simply trying to avoid starvation. In Victorian Britain, the gap between the rich and the poor was enormous, and for many children, especially orphans or those living in working-class slums, crime became the only option, punishments that broke lives. The justice system was merciless even to the youngest offenders. Punishments included imprisonment. Even children under the age of 10 could end up in prison alongside adults, where they faced hard labor, poor nutrition, and brutal treatment. Hard labor. Children were often subjected to grueling tasks such as breaking stones, cleaning streets, or working in factories. Reformatory schools. While these were intended as an alternative to prison, many were not much better. Harsh discipline and poor living conditions were common. For example, the mentioned John and Thomas Williams, aged just 13 and 14, were sentenced to 6 months in jail for house looting. For boys so young, such punishment could have been a life-altering trauma. Their families were likely impoverished, and the brothers may have committed the crime out of desperation to help their loved ones. The Juvenile Offences Act of 1847 marked the first step toward treating child offenders differently, establishing special courts for those under 14, later raised to 16. In 1854, reformatory schools were introduced, where children served long sentences aimed at separating them from the bad influences of their home environments. These institutions were the primary solution for juvenile crime throughout the 19th century. However, attitudes gradually began to shift in the early 20th century. By 1899, children were no longer sent to adult prisons, signaling the start of a more reformative approach to juvenile justice. These mugshots remain a chilling reminder of a time when the youngest and most vulnerable faced the full force of a justice system designed for adults.